All right. So we've called to order the meeting. We've gone through the pledge, and we're up to our first item here at the CCA. Jeff Demansky, it's all yours.
Well, I had coordinated with Mindy to be here tonight, and very happy to provide an update and answer any questions. And there was discussion about setting meeting dates for public meetings to launch the program.
Yep.
But what would be best for the meeting tonight?
Mindy, where are we on this? What stage are we at here? We were to the point where we've been through the public hearings, and I think we're just looking to set meeting dates, correct?
Right, exactly. I mean, we did the hearings. We have Brian there, right? And then, yeah. So I think that the next meetings, right, the ones that Jeff, you host.
Right. So there's 2 required public meetings, but they happen after you've selected the Jewel team to be your administrator. So that's one of the crux points that we need to get to, is make sure that that was in place, that you've seen the service agreement with Jewel, approve it and select Jewel as a team. And then that starts the clock for the state's perspective on an outreach period, during which we do 2 public meetings. And so that's what we're working. I think that's where our discussion left off.
Okay. So we have the Jewel agreement for our review already. I think we got that at the last meeting.
Right, and we had passed that over to Brian, I believe, for review. So yeah. I'll have to check with him tomorrow.
So I think the June meeting is probably too soon this coming Monday, but possibly the July regular meeting will adopt Jewel as our administrator, and then we can set these 2 meeting dates for beginning of August. I hate to keep kicking it down the road here, but I mean, unless you think we can get this back and review it by Monday.
You know what? It's probably okay on the timing too. Just to provide an update for you, we're going into the end of the first year of the 2-year agreement for the current aggregation of communities, which are currently 10 communities, including Phillipstown and Cold Spring. So by the time we got this going, there'd be less than a year left on the existing contract for that program. And we're entering interesting market times. It is a good time to fix rates for a new program as well. And we're in conversation with a number of communities in Central Hudson Territory, including Hyde Park and Rhinebeck and Saugerties, that are shaping up to be a new aggregation. So I wouldn't worry about urgency in this case, because there are a couple of good opportunities to be part of an aggregation, including that new aggregation involving those communities I just mentioned. But there's also the likelihood of a relaunch of the existing 10 communities that will take place. Conversations will start to happen probably about the beginning of next year. So I think there's good opportunities that will align well with what Nelsonville would benefit from.
All right. So taking our time actually may benefit us in the long run.
Well, given where we're at, I think it's no problem. Yes.
All right. So then we'll get the documents back from our attorney. We'll look to vote on this in July, and then we'll have these, hopefully the first of these public meetings that you'll host sometime in August.
That'd be great. And that's probably in alignment with what we'll hopefully do with some of the other communities that are launching as well.
Perfect.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right.
Any other questions I can answer tonight?
I mean, was there any impact on the whole COVID crisis with any of the pricing or anything like that?
Well, everything was going wonderfully, wonderfully swimmingly in terms of our program rates compared to Central Hudson's rates. Mm-hmm. And Central Hudson's publishes its variable rate about the 10th or the 12th of every month. And it did take a bit of a dive in May. Our program rate for the 100% renewable is to round it, about 6.4 cents per kilowatt hour. And the market, the Central Hudson rate did go down to about 4.7 in May. So still not a very big difference in terms of, we're talking, about, not even quite 2 cents in that difference right there in price, but significant for the relative size of the program, not the relative size of that rate. But we do anticipate that there's a correction already underway. Maybe the next month's rate will be relatively low, but it was already trending to be quite a good looking year prior to that. And so the correction should put us back in a really good place in terms of the win-win scenario, that people can get the 100% renewable sourcing with very good rates that would likely even beat Central Hudson's non-clean energy rate.
Why do you think that that rate went down to 4.7? Do you think just the closure of businesses and the slowdown of the economy?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Those are two very significant factors in the forward projections. The world just turned upside down in uncertainty. I mean, that was the period when oil was had a negative price on it during that period. So it was that strange time when the world turned upside down.
All right, great. I don't have any questions. Anyone else on the board? No? I think we're all set then, Jeff. You'll hear from us as soon as we get the documents back from Brian. And like I said, we'll have this on our July agenda. And thank you for coming.
Oh, my pleasure. If you guys will forgive me too, I'm going to step out from this meeting and enter another Zoom meeting. Beacon is doing a climate resilience workshop tonight, so I'm going to jump over to that meeting now.
No problem. Have a good evening.
Have a good night. Take care.
Bye, Jeff. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Take care, all.
Agenda item number 2, reopening the county and outdoor dining. Trustee McKaylee.
Yeah, so we're in phase 2 of reopening New York safely, and that means that there is the capacity to do some outside dining. And I don't know what's happening at Juanita's. We briefly talked about at the meeting, the Open Putnam Safely meeting, about increasing capacity for restaurants to have more outdoor space and possibly going into that parking lot. I also spoke with Homestyle Creamery because I noticed that they are open, but people are tending to bunch when I've driven by, and really aren't masked. And so I spoke to them today, and they said that they're doing everything that they need to do. They're wearing gloves and face masks, and they're sanitizing the money before they hand it back to people. So they're really working hard. But I also mentioned that we had access to some feet templates, and that we would be happy possibly to come over there and put feet 6 feet apart so that people could stand 6 feet apart while they're waiting for their ice cream. And that was that went over very well. So I don't know, if we can borrow those templates again. And I don't know who actually owns that piece of lot in front of them. I know they put their tables out today, they said too, their picnic tables.
All that property is owned by Frost.
It is.
Yeah.
So would we have to check with him first before we did? I mean, the paint comes off. It's just.
Well, he's not too far from opening up himself.
Okay.
Like when you say the ice cream, the bunching of the people, 90% of the people I'm right across the street from their families that are bunched.
Okay.
Whenever we were over there a couple of times last week, and there were like 3 or 4 groups, and there was more than 2, and they were all families who stay together. That's how and they're spread out. It looks like it's not cooperative type of thing, but when you realize it's all families standing together, and it's Chris talking to Rich about that. He said, well, he discussed that with them, and he watched it with his wife too all the time, making sure everybody's spaced out. So it's working out that everybody's going by the rules.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, as part of phase 2, phase 3, I correct me if I'm wrong, but I think every restaurant, every eatery has to file paperwork with the county and also have it displayed, and they have to be able to produce it for the health department if they come to inspect. I mean, everything's fine and good until they get a complaint, and then there is some police action to it in terms of fines and that kind of thing that can happen. But I mean, I've driven by, I've seen the crowds congregated, but like Dave says, it seemed to be like family units. It's all up to people to kind of self-police themselves going forward. And yeah, I mean, if they're open to, just putting dots of paint or something on the ground there, or even, tape X's on the weekends, because that seems to be when the problem is. I mean, if you look at Moo Moo's down in Cold Spring on the weekend and see the line of 100 people, I mean, it runs the gamut. You have people following the guidelines and people that aren't. So, what was that, Mindy?
I can't even believe that place is able to open. It is so small, and I can't imagine how they could be socially distancing there.
It's curbside. I think they're outside when they're serving people. The
Okay.
problem is after they leave, the people leave the line and then they congregate along the waterfront, and especially with the dock closed,
Yeah,
everybody's kind of along that side there.
it's different.
Anything else about reopening? I guess phase 3 is, I guess, a week out from now or 2 weeks out. I'm not sure. It all depends on the metrics and, you know, what happens in the meantime with everything that's going on in the world, whether we see upticks or not. So, I mean, I will note one thing. I saw the Village of Cold Spring today started to paint their one-way, put traffic signs on the sidewalk.
We'll see that work.
Yeah, it's another case of, you know,
That's gonna be interesting.
it's a good idea, but in practice, I don't know how that's going to work. So we'll see.
Yeah, they've been really struggling. They've been talking about their meetings and all of the different suggestions that have come up, and
Yeah.
tough.
All right, nothing else on reopening. Next is OSI C-Corps MOU. Trustee McHaley again. You wanna
I'm actually going to turn this over to Chris because she went through the documents this week
Okay.
and we chatted about it, and so she had some adjustments that she made to the docs.
Sure, thanks.
Go ahead, Chris.
Didn't prepare, but we we wanted to make sure that we included the possibility for the water well at the C4.
Losing you.
Yeah, we're losing your audio.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
Okay. We wanted to make sure that we had included the water well option in the conservation agreement, to amend that. And I saw a little bit of back and forth, Lisa, but I didn't get to read it in great detail. Did OSI get back and said that they were working on it as well? They had already been working on it?
Yeah, OSI knew about our adjustments. They hadn't really done them. They were thankful for the reminder, and they asked when our July meeting was. And I told them we want to get the documents back a week before the meeting. So our meeting is July 20th. So I said by July 13th, if they can get everything passed through the various stakeholders and make the adjustments. So the answer to that was they're gonna try and do that.
Okay, maybe even earlier if we could, to discuss it at the workshop beforehand.
July is a weird month. Mindy and I were talking about that because July 1st is a Wednesday. So our workshop is the 8th. And then our meeting isn't until the 20th. So it's kind
Oh,
of
wow.
Well, I'll follow up with Will and just see if we can get everything in order
Great.
by that 8th workshop, and we can devote a pretty large part of that to a final discussion on this. So hopefully we could take action at the July regular meeting. At least that's what my hope would be. We've certainly talked about it for quite some time. Anything on OSI C-Corps? Update on minutes, Mindy?
So, okay, so I was behind on the minutes and I've caught them up except for April. And I just want to say that we didn't, inadvertently, we neglected to record the May meeting. So there's no audio version of it. So basically, it was, we realized that right away. So I put down the minutes in writing as fast as I could. And so what's coming out to you, I'm asking you guys to look over them carefully. And if there's anything that you recall that I didn't get in there, please, write it down or etch it in or whatever, or email it to me so that we can really get them as, consistent as we possibly can. And so the only thing that everybody doesn't have for review right now is April. And I will have those to you by the end of the day tomorrow so that we can be all caught up with our meetings and hopefully approve them at the next meeting and have everything posted on the website.
Mike, are you recording these Zoom sessions?
Yeah, they're set to auto record every time. For some reason, last meeting, we clicked it off at the beginning, I think because we were all having personal conversations with Gloria ahead of time. And all on me, I forgot to turn it back on. And yeah, Mindy knows how angry I was with myself when I hung up that night, and I was texting her like damn it, I forgot to turn it back on. So, but the good thing is we didn't do anything earth-shattering last month, so yeah, the minutes will reflect. Update on tree stump, 103 Healy Road, Mindy.
Okay, so you know, we had this report that there was swarms of termites in that tree. So Jerry Allen had taken down that tree. I called him, asked him to go and assess it and see what he thought. He said when he went and looked at it right after I spoke to him, he got back to me. He did not see a lot of termite action. He said in his opinion, what he was looking at would have been old termite damage to the tree, but he can't see inside, so he can't guarantee it. I asked him about removing that stump, $250, no big deal. So anyway, that was his opinion. And anyway, the resident still, saw what they saw, like tons of termites there. We can call an exterminator. That's an option. I'm just like, giving an update on it, and this is where we're at.
Does anybody have any thoughts on that? I mean, we cut these trees down because they're on our property and they become a public nuisance. So, for liability's sake, we take them down. When they become stumps like this, I don't know, because a lot of our things, our responsibility stops at the curb when it comes to water lines and all that other stuff. I mean, $250 to grind the stump out isn't a lot of money, but the precedent it sets, there's a lot of tree stumps along Healy Road. Is everybody going to want them out now?
A lot of trees on Haley Road. I mean, when you get rid of the stump, you get rid of the termites. The stump's still going to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I guess we'll discuss it further.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we contract with Terminix. He comes here like 3 times a year and does stuff, goes around the basement, whatever. I mean, I can ask them what it would be for somebody to go and look at it and give us an assessment, and we'll have something to discuss.
I know what their recommendation is going to be. It's going to be a long-term
Of course.
contract and thousands of
That's
dollars.
what they do. That's what they do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we could revisit that one, or I mean, I'm open to suggestions from anybody. Yeah.
Okay.
The stump.
Stumped.
It's a big one. It's about a 4-foot high stump.
Yeah, I've seen it, and it looks like it's had some, stuff drilling into it, whether it's woodpeckers and all that other stuff. But
I mean, you take away that stump. Then the house before that one, where the tree fell down last year, that stump is still there.
yeah,
You keep on going down the road until you have a stump.
and there's like probably 5 or 6 of them along that one stretch of road.
Yeah, but where does it stop?
And we have the 2 trees we just took down on Division and Adams Avenue. I mean, those.
Yep, and those are some huge stumps.
That'd be fun taking them out, stuck in the curb and in the hill.
You'd be taking out their entire front retaining wall. And take
Yep.
those out. So, I mean, we'll discuss it further. Like I said, I understand the issue, but I don't want to set the precedent where, we're now a stump removal company as well as a tree removal company.
Right, and I mean, the fear with it is that those termites are going to travel to the homes that are there, but the tree stump is not that close to the homes, I don't believe. There's quite 70 feet or something, somebody said.
At least that.
I don't know. I know, just in real estate, I know there's many, many, many homes in the area that have termite issues and I don't know where they come from or how they travel. So I'll do some research into it. And if we want to reach out to Terminex and just even see if it's a feasibility. Scheduling the landscape debris pickup. So we left off on having the idea of doing a once a year kind of in the spirit of our garbage removal, of doing a yard debris and grass clipping kind of cleanup with a dumpster at Village Hall. You got some prices from Mark, Mindy?
Yeah, only now that I'm using my phone, I can't look at his message, but there was the one price of like $475 for a huge dumpster, and then there's one that's a little bit smaller, like 300 and something for a smaller dumpster. I mean, I would think that we should, my opinion would be to go with the smaller dumpster, because this is something we're gonna try. Put it right out here by Village Hall so that we can cover it. And I would say, like, let's do it for 2 weeks. Nelsonville residents, make an appointment. I'll uncover it and you dump. Otherwise, we're going to have a free-for-all and we're going to be, paying for everybody's garbage.
Well, I think leaving it there for 2 weeks, that's too long, because you're going to get people dumping stuff in there.
A week?
I mean, unless we're going to put a camera on it and man it 24 hours, I mean, it's going to end up with someone's garbage in there.
You got to put it in the paper for when you're going to do this.
Right.
So put it in the paper. You're going to do 1 day. Mark goes around, picks it up at your house. It's like the spring cleanup, winter fall cleanup.
Yeah, I mean, that's the
That's the easiest way to do it.
Yeah. I mean, the way that Cold Spring does it is you bag your clippings, leave them on the curbside, and then they go around with the truck once a year and take them, or twice a year.
They do it every Wednesday now. They do that every Wednesday.
All right. So, I mean, maybe we'll talk to Mark and see if he'd be open to doing that kind of a mix where, we do get the dumpster, but his guys just go around, once a week or something like that for a period of time and just grab this stuff. See if he's open to that.
I really don't like that idea.
Which
Okay.
Your best idea is to basically put it in the paper. You're going to have cleanup on such and such a date. 1 day. Put the stuff in the street, just like the cleanup had last week. They put the stuff on Friday, we all picked it up.
But we do that with leaves, and people don't do it, and then everybody calls me, I missed it.
If they miss it, they miss it. That's too bad. Yeah, you can't be catering to everybody because they missed it.
I mean,
That's just,
The only misgiving I have with putting a dumpster at Village Hall is, like I said, it's just like when we had the dumpster up on Wood Avenue for the woods cleanup. People dumped tons of stuff in there. I mean, not tons, but a lot of just miscellaneous garbage in there.
Yeah, I'd be worried with, even if you do set up a time and you lock it down, if you're even able to do that, then you're just going to find bags outside.
Yeah.
Next to the dumpster in the morning.
See, I think in a dumpster sitting for 2 weeks, it rains.
Yeah.
Stuff like that can get kind of smelly, even though it's like leaves and brush and like that, in this heat.
So talk to Mark, see if he'd be amenable to doing this, like Dave said, just like he does with the Christmas tree pickup.
Okay.
We'll designate a day, just like the garbage pickup, and see if he can make that happen.
Okay.
That sound good to everybody? And that way we're not having to police it ourselves and make appointments and all that.
Okay.
Update on parking at the Masonic Lodge, Mindy?
So basically we all know that they put in those concrete dividers. So everything is now painted orange and yellow, so nobody backs into those concrete barriers, and they've lined all the spots. So we were thinking that maybe because we have to use that for winter parking and there's a very limited amount of spots, and we also feel that should be a very limited amount of people in the village, mainly only a few on Division Street that don't have off-street parking. So maybe we can do some kind of assigned parking spots with those for the people in the village who truly need them.
It's definitely an idea. Talk to Bill Bajarski, the building inspector, about it. He has some ideas about it as well. I mean, ideally, if we're going to pave part of that road, hopefully we can maybe get the right-of-way for the village paved as well. We've talked about turning the parking now to face towards the parking barriers they put in. I think for insurance purposes, we probably have to put our own in and not use theirs. Yeah, there's a couple ideas. Also, I want to talk to Mark about the part of Secor Street at the end of Crown here going down towards kind of Dove's house and towards the winter parking. If we cleared the brush out from there, there's a rock wall back in there. You could probably fit more winter parking up along here if we had to. Adams Avenue was the other one that we were discussing, reinstating parking there. Again, I know we got a lot of complaints about this 2 years ago. It hardly ever snowed this past winter, so it was kind of a dead issue.
Right.
So it's really hard to assess the need for it. So I think just as a proactive measure, we'll look at kind of rearranging the Masonic or our easement of that part of that property, and look at, you know, expanding it on either. The easiest one would be just reinstating it at Adams Avenue on the pine tree side of the street there, and maybe expanding it somewhere else.
Yeah, I think those are great ideas. When I spoke with folks on Division, they brought up winter parking as an issue for them.
Yeah.
So to have something over closer to them too on Adams would be great.
Yeah, and I mean, we don't need a lot. I think if we did 5 spaces on Adams, I think that would be enough. And that one side of the street is, you know, it's not in front of anyone's house. They just are selling the property. They used to be Fairgate Rule. So I don't think we want to put winter parking on that side, because that could be somebody's front yard in the very foreseeable future. So, I mean, we could probably fit 4 or 5 cars on the other side easily. And the street's wide enough that it's not going to impact anyone. I know we had complaints last time it was there, but, you know, again, we can enforce it.
Well, the biggest complaint usually is people don't move their car, so they can't plow it.
Yeah.
That's the biggest complaint.
It was a legitimate complaint last time, and you know, we just need to stay on top of it. And if people leave their cars there past the times, you know, we either take it or tow. I mean, I hate to do it, but it's got to be done. Anything else on parking? We did receive a few letters, or 1 letter or 2, I don't remember, that we're not very happy with what was being done over there, but hey, it's their property. Update on the road paving proposals, Dave and the clerk.
I got 3 proposals so far. The Gorham Group
Mike, I
called me today.
emailed them to you.
Yeah,
Mike, you got them? Okay.
You got copies. Now,
There we go.
Who's that one? This is Paul Hemus's. As you can see, what it shows basically, to do all 3 roads. You mill down where the transitions are going to be, like on top one is Bank Street, right?
Yep.
Yeah, on Bank Street, you mill the 2 ones it's going to meet, and where it comes out on Division Street, you mill it down to join it, and then you put the tack coat down, and you go over it with 2 inches of the asphalt. All right, that was 750.
750.
And then it was basically the same thing for Secor and Division, but Division was basically just transition out to both ends of it and go over the whole road, because it really wasn't all. That was in a better shape than the other roads.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I also got proposals from Sal. You got copies of the Sal? Oh, yeah, I already got Van Eaton. I got Van Eaton. They gave me. We talked Van Eaton last time, didn't we? Talk about Van Eaton.
Yes.
And then we also got Sal.
Yep.
And we talked about Sal, and I was waiting. And today, the guy from the Warren Group called me. He was late getting it out because he didn't know where to. Once he took up the old asphalt, where to get rid of it. And I told him Carl will take it.
Yeah.
So he's going to have a proposal for me by Monday. So we'll have 4 proposals to look at. You all have copies of it, or you can get it. Mindy made them all off, and we can go through them and look at Monday, see what you want to do on Monday, how you want to go.
All right. And these were all based on the same specs?
No, Polhemus is different. Polhemus isn't gonna dig anything out, right? He's just gonna do the transitions, Dave. And when I spoke to them, they said that there's no written warranty with it. But Charlie did say specifically with the 2 inches of asphalt on top, it's not gonna crack like a patch job.
Yeah.
That's not what this is gonna be.
Well, because of the tack coat. The tack coat keeps it, binds it together. It fills in the cracks.
Yeah.
It's like a gum. You know,
Yeah.
it holds everything together. So, I mean, so we got a 115 price. Or
Can I just ask a question about Secor Street? Because that's the road I'm more familiar with. I live on it. Maybe I'm just not very observant, but I've never thought of it as particularly bad. And I've never heard any of my neighbors complain about it either. It just seems like spending $30,000 on it. I don't know. Have we received letters requesting that Secor be paved?
we didn't receive letters, but I mean, you got to fix the road. It starts falling apart. In front of your house is coming apart.
There's portions of the road that are spidering and starting to, basically break apart. Is it as bad as Bank Street? No.
No.
And, I mean, Division Street has one pothole in it right now that's got to be almost 6 inches deep. That I almost put the stroller into last night, not paying attention. So
Supposed to walk on the sidewalk.
yeah, on Division it's hard because
It is real
I don't
hard.
want to get into it because people don't cut their hedges back, so you can't walk on the sidewalk.
Hmm.
But yeah, so I mean, just to your point, Dove, Secor can probably wait. It's not an emergency right now.
I know the area by the winter parking is not great. And so maybe if we were paving that anyway, that could be fixed. but-
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
Dave,
no.
that's part of like whoever we go with. I want to discuss with them how much it would be to do that 50-foot right of way through the winter parking on the end of North Pearl, just to get a price and a ballpark on it.
Yeah, that would involve doing that part has not blacktop on it. It would involve probably digging it down, putting on
Yeah, it probably would need a drain in it.
yeah, all that stuff it would need.
So we
But
could
Secor is in pretty bad shape. So, but I mean, if you want to skip one, because eventually there's only like 6 roads in Nelsonville.
Yeah.
So you either you do it this year, you do it next year. It's going to get done.
Yep.
Before it gets too bad, you better off, before it gets really bad, you do it before it gets to that point where it won't be as much to do.
All right, so get the 4th price, and then send them around. We can all look at them, and we'll put it on the agenda for, well, if you're getting them Monday. I don't know if Monday night's too soon, but
Well, I'll have it. He's gonna. Between now and Monday, he said to have it. I could get it tomorrow or Saturday.
Right.
And once I get it, give it to Mindy. She can post it on the computer.
Okay.
perfect.
Right?
Can I ask a quick question too about streets that's sort of only tangentially related, but somebody asked me and I said I would bring it up with you guys. The little sort of strip of green that is on North Pearl Street in front of some of the houses, can neighbors decide to plant things there? Because some of those are just weeds, and my neighbor wanted permission to be able to put some flowers in that little median strip. Is that
In the
okay?
piece between the sidewalk and the curb.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can put flowers in there.
Yeah,
Okay.
residents are, technically it's village property, but they do the other.
Encouraged to do that. Okay. Thank you.
People put bricks in them, they do everything. I mean,
Okay.
we don't really, as long as they're not making a hazard that, a tripping hazard or something like that.
Okay.
Anything else on paving? Roof proposals?
Yeah, I got a proposal from Steve. You got a copy of that?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. We basically, it's take it off.
So this is for the entire structure. So
Entire
it's
building.
basically 3 buildings.
Now now you got the backside. Now, if it has 1x6 wood and it's got a gap, which it probably does, you got to plywood the roof in. That would be an additional $5,600.
So that's only if we needed to replace the plywood, right?
Well, that's if you got to replace it all.
Yeah.
Okay, that's how I did contracts too. I gave you a price for a roof. I gave it to you for all the wood because it's easier to take it out than put it in.
Yep.
So, and then because you don't know how much is bad or where there's plywood.
Yep.
With
I
this-
ran into him the day that he was out there doing the inspection of it from the outside.
Yeah.
I don't know if getting him up in the attic so he can see between the planks will make any difference, but
No, it doesn't. Well, you look at the porch roof itself, I think that has plywood on it already, just from the way it looks,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, the one above does too. You can see it in between the planks from the attic.
You know, if there's plywood, then you don't need it. Then basically that, you just take that out.
Yeah.
But then there's the cost per sheet, which he has.
And what is the roof over the village meeting room, the old firehouse? It's a flat roof, right? Or is there a pitch on it?
The front roof of the firehouse,
Yeah.
that's a flat, that's got a rubber roof on it with a little bit of pitch. I did that about 25 years ago, maybe.
All right.
That should have been done about 15 years ago by now. But rubber holds up real good.
So we had this estimate drawn up just to get a ballpark of, you know, what it would cost to do, because, you know, the roofs in different, it's basically 3 different roofs done at 3 different times. 2 of the 3 are probably going to fail in the next couple of years because they've got some missing shingles and things like that. So this is definitely something that we're going to have to tackle at some point. Whether we want to do it this year, you know, we already have a bunch of pretty big spending items on the docket for the year, so it's something that we can mull over as we go forward. Yeah, I mean, Steve is probably going to be the best price. I'm not going to say that we have an inside with him, but I mean, literally, he owns the company that Dave ran. So, I don't know. What is anyone's feeling on doing the roof?
It looks like the total of $18,000 proposal.
Yeah.
That's if they have to put plywood and all that other stuff on there.
Yep. That seems very reasonable, but like you said, we also have a lot of other.
I can't hear what you're saying.
Yeah, your mic's going in and out, Chris.
How about now?
A little better.
Sorry. It seems fair, but I would like a little time to look it over and make our decision maybe on the road first, and then see if we still have enough to do this.
Okay.
I like the idea for us to get down the road of, you know, some of our other.
I think your computer's it's run out of its Zoom audio capability. Are you still there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, there you go. You're perfect.
You can hear me.
I give up.
So yeah, if we have the time or the capital to do it, this is something that, you know, keep in the back of your minds is something that needs to happen sooner than later. Invasive species update, Trustee Podlowski.
Okay, so this will be quick, but I just wanted to say, and I believe Heidi is here as well, that we managed to, thanks to lots of volunteers, get all 200 witch hazel seedlings in the ground. So, and we had to do that within 2 weeks, and we did it. So, and it's been fun to watch them, the leaves start to open on the little seedlings. And yeah, so I think it went well. The Hudson Highlands Land Trust really helped with publicity. They shared on social media, and were just very supportive, as was OSI. So we also involved the Nelsonville Trails Committee, and we got some volunteers from the community to make a flyer. So it was a good group effort. I had a lot of fun. I think others did too. So we'll keep doing things like this.
It's wonderful.
It was great. I mean, we walked through the trail with the baby one night, and you know, I was trying to see how far, like, in the woods you guys went, and I mean, it was like literally everywhere I saw the little, you know, plantings with the orange ribbons on them. So I mean, it was just it's great. You know, we had one little hiccup with a resident that takes care of the trails, hit a few things. He's very apologetic. It was inadvertent, and yeah. where you guys handled it very well. And yeah, I just, I don't want Heidi to think that her hard work is not appreciated by everybody. I mean, she, like, literally, I think if we all had the energy that she has, we would, we'd have the sewer done and a bunch of other things already. We could have dug it up ourselves, right? But, you know, she did an amazing job, and just everybody that helped, I can't say thank you enough.
Thank you, everyone.
5G code, next steps. Dove, that's you as well.
Okay, yeah, this had been a little bit on the back burner just with other emergencies happening in our world. But I want to bring it back. If you can recall, the last time we looked at this, Brian Morgan, the village attorney, had drafted a resolution for us to pass, but there was a question about the fees in the right-of-way. So who has jurisdiction over the occupancy fees if they are on private utility poles on state-owned roads that traverse the village? So it was a complicated question. Brian and I went back and forth for a while. He looked at various case law. So I shared with Mike this well, I think I shared with everyone, but I asked Mike to put this paragraph up because you can kind of see the final thought is that there are overlapping jurisdictions. And so like both the New York State DOT and the village could make a claim for who would receive monies from these occupancy fees. The FCC did not address this jurisdictional uncertainty, Brian says. So I also sent an email just today to NICOM, to Rebecca, who is the counsel on staff, who is most familiar with telecommunications law. And I'm waiting to hear back. So I'll see whether she agrees with Brian's assessment. I did want to add to the conversation that the FCC has made clear what are acceptable fee rates. And so I guess the next step for me to will also to bring this up with Bill, but essentially a municipality cannot charge more than $1,000 for a permit application, and it cannot charge more than $270 per unit per year that are in the village right of way. So that would be the occupancy fee that we could get from the carriers if they put up a unit. So if they put up 5 units, it would be 5 times $270 per year. Then the added layer of uncertainty is how we would split that with the DOT. And it's not clear, but I think what Brian was suggesting is that we add to the resolution what our fee schedule numbers would be. And actually, Mindy, sorry to put you on the spot. I meant to ask you this earlier today, but what is the application fee for a cell tower in Nelsonville?
Let me see.
Because essentially the FCC is saying that we have to charge reasonable application fees, and how they define reasonable is in part how much we charge for other similar building permits. So it would probably make sense to match what the cost is for the telecommunications tower.
So I'm not seeing a set fee for that because it probably falls under the permit fee of new construction. So basically you pay an application fee of $75, but based on the size of the scope of the work, there's a calculation. So
we can ask Bill exactly, you know, what the fee was this time around.
Yeah.
Right.
I'd like to talk to Bill because in this scenario, the scope would be small because these are small cells, but they would still be complex,
Right.
engineering wise. So we'll talk about that. So I'm not sure we'd be prepared to vote on this by Monday, but if not, I definitely want to have it for the July meeting because it'd be good for us to pass this.
That's the question. How can we charge for a telephone pole that's owned by an electric company? They own the poles. We don't own the poles.
I know. This is what Brian and I were going back and forth on, and this is what I've asked NICOM. So if they're in the village right of way, there's this ambiguity over who can claim jurisdiction over these fees.
And there are so many municipalities that are trying to get ahead of this right now. I'm sure that NICOM has some pretty clear guidance on it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we'll look to them and follow their lead. But it is something that I'd like to move forward with.
It sounds like July might be a kind of a cleanup month where a lot of these things that we've been dealing with for literally over a year, 2 years, 3 years in some instances, maybe we can get some things checked off the list. It does bring up another issue that we need to retackle, and I don't know if we want to do July, August, but our master plan and code update, we need to start thinking about putting together a group of volunteers and take a good hard look at that because, just talking to Bill, our code does need to be updated and it needs to be done as part of the master plan process, and our current master plan is from
91.
91. So we're well overdue. So let's, I see, I can assign this to her because she can't really talk back right now, but Chris, I think this has your name written all over it. No, it's something that we need to have, it needs to happen sooner rather than later, just like everything else. But yeah, the code update is a part of the master plan, and it all ties into everything that we've been dealing with in the last 5 years around here. Anything else on 5G before we move on? I think that was it, except for the cell phone tower correspondence, which everyone has seen. I just wanted to specifically regarding the slope of the driveway, we've received, a handful, I guess 5 to 6 letters, Mindy, or something like that.
Couple.
Yeah, I saw, also there's a perspective in the Putnam County News today. Just the only statement that I wish to make as mayor, and I'll just use Bill Bajarski's words, is that the plans are in review. The Cold Spring Fire Company is reviewing the plans to see if the realigned road is compatible with their equipment access per New York State Fire Code. The fire department has the authority to accept a greater slope if they feel they can service the site. So I see we have a few people in the crowd tonight. I don't know, when we open it up for public comment, I hope that addresses your issues and concerns. We have not taken any action on this at all. I've gotten a couple phone calls from people saying that we illegally approved this and, a greater slope and all that stuff, and nothing's been approved and it's under review. And that's that. I don't know if anyone has anything else to add to that before I open it to public comment. All good, or Dove?
Sorry, I mute myself. I did want to make a comment about the latest revised application that Homeland submitted, and it's up on our website. I think we got it May 28th. It bothers me that they still haven't included a design of what the fir tree will look like. We asked for it when we rejected the first building application, and they did not submit a design this time around. And it just seems like no other municipality would approve the construction of any development without a picture of what it's going to look like. And I emailed Homeland in response, and all the lawyers that were on that thread, saying that I really would, personally speaking, need to see a picture of what this fir tree is going to look like. They haven't responded, but
I can only speak to the last email I was CC'd on between the building inspector and Homeland. The two issues that need to be resolved are the grade of the road access and the picture or schematic or drawing of the proposed tree.
yeah, I mean, the whole long history of this application, has been the discussion of the camouflage. And in the settlement agreement, it says that the board would be consulted on the design, et cetera, et cetera. And I just don't want to give up that authority.
It will not.
Okay, thank you.
It's been made clear to them that nothing will go forward without that drawing.
I
Thank
got
you.
a,
Depiction.
on that steep slope over there for the tower,
Yep.
there are houses that were built in this village that you cannot get a fire truck to now, that were built recently. So it comes down to the same thing.
Yeah, the New York State Fire Code is pretty clear that the fire company has some wiggle room to approve or deny based on basically what the fire load is in the building, the need to access, that kind of thing. I'm assuming that they're probably talking to their own attorney right now to have them review it as well, just to get more eyes on it, and doing their due diligence just like we did. And all we can do is follow the letter of the law. And all I can say is that the building inspector is on top of it, and he's well aware of the amount of scrutiny and the eyes that are on it. Anything else before I open it to the public? Let's see here. I am going to, and in Zoom's infinite wisdom, I don't believe that I can unmute everybody now. Let's see. So I am going to allow participants to unmute themselves. So if you have a comment, please feel free to unmute yourself, and we'll go first come, first serve, I guess. Is there anybody there? Gloria, I see you unmuted.
Yes, I did. I wanted to say a couple things in regard to the parking. Many years ago, we did park in Adams Avenue, and I know it was when the factory was there, and it was a mess. But now the factory is no longer there, and the way we thought of parking back then is kind of how they do it over in Newburgh on Broadway. You would pull in. That way, when they plow, they're only plowing in the back of your car, not the whole side of your car. So people be able to, yeah, that was one thing. The roofing, I can't stress enough. I mean, David did my roof years ago, and I always remember being told by carpenters that if you don't put a heap of roof on a house, you're going to have problems down the road. And I know the village has to be careful of money, but we don't want our village house to get in ruins with rotted wood.
It'll be done. It's just a matter of when. And in terms of the winter parking, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Adams was used as winter parking up until 3 years ago. I think the former mayor lifted the parking there because of a complaint from one of the neighbors.
Yes, correct.
So, I mean, yeah, I think we're going to probably end up reinstating it there and see how it goes.
And if they do like you do in Newburgh, instead of pulling in, they could back in. That way they could pull right out at that angle instead of doing like parallel parking. I remember years ago, someone did a drawing. I'm talking 25 years ago.
Diagonally,
What's that, Dave?
diagonally parking?
Yeah.
Yes, like over in Broadway in Newburgh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what the width of the road, and I don't know if we can do it, but we'll definitely, it's an option that we'll look at.
That road is wide. You get 4 cars on that road.
Yeah, I know.
It's a wide road.
No, and other than that, thank you, Heidi, for doing the plants over in the backwoods. And I appreciate all your efforts during this chaotic time in our lives. Thank you. It's greatly, greatly appreciated.
Thank
Goodbye.
you. Anybody else out there that would like to make a public comment?
Yes, I have a question.
Oh, sorry.
Go right ahead.
the process for the 5G paperwork that you're doing, I just received that off of the internet. It just went up. So I need some time to look through that. What is the process of people giving their input?
Well, we actually handed this out at a public meeting. Was it in January or February? So it's been in circulation. Hard copies have been in circulation for a long time.
Yeah, we've been discussing a 5G law, I mean, going back to, it had to be.
Okay, so what would the process for me to put, can I put, is the time frame over, or can I put some input into it?
If you want to write a letter to us, it definitely will get read.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just to be clear, there is currently no regulation on 5G in the village. So
I know that. Yeah.
this is attempting to set a process that will allow for our planning board to review applications. So as of now, a carrier can come in and doesn't even need a permit, right? So this is trying to set a review process. That's what this legislation is for. So this is
Right.
not legislation. This is not legislation saying we want 5G, but rather it's.
I understand that. I've been following it, and there's a few things it looks like. I mean, I read it very quickly, but there's a few things that may be interested, that you may be interested. I am interested in adding to it, so I'll write it out.
Great.
Thank you guys very much.
And when you make a comment, just to identify who you are, just so Mindy has it for the record.
Sure, I will.
What's your name? I'm
Dana.
sorry.
Dana Carini.
All right, just wanted to make sure that the Zoom was correct.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dana.
Okay, thank you guys.
Anybody else?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
David Eisenbach. The court agreement, in the court agreement, the number of trees that were to be removed was 47. It's now 67. Is there any opportunity for the public to comment on that? And will there be, and is there any kind of process of a review for that 40% increase?
So right now, I know Bill is working with Homeland on the application. I saw the number that you're referring to in the new application package. I don't know what the justification is for that. In terms of a review process, the issue that we have right now is we're operating under a federally stipulated court order. So I would have to defer to Bill, and if you had issues with the number of trees that were coming down, to let him know, and any issues that he sees as being deficiencies in the application, he'll bring to our attention.
The reason why there are more trees coming down, and by the way, the number of trees is actually probably closer to 100 because they're only counting trees of a 8-inch diameter or greater. So it's a significantly different plan, and the visuals that were presented to the public about how this was going to look are now completely outdated. They no longer apply to a much greater footprint in terms of the impact on the visual. So will there be new renderings to represent the new plan?
Honestly, at this stage, I would highly doubt it, just because of literally we are at the stage now where we've gone through a court battle, and now we're in a stipulation and basically a final approval. I'm sure, as everyone was aware, that this was supposed to be approved in a certain period of time after the application was submitted. We keep finding these deficiencies, and we keep going back and forth with Homeland. So this is one that is definitely on everybody's radar, and I know the building inspector has raised it with them as well.
The other thing is the reason why there are more trees is because the road is significantly different than the plan that was in the court agreement. Instead of having 2 bends, they now have 2 switchbacks, which makes it considerably more dangerous to anybody who tries to drive on this road, and makes it potentially a lot more dangerous if there's ever a fire and the trucks can't get in, can't make the 2 switchbacks, can't get out in the event of an absolute disaster. I think that it just seems to me that the public should have some ability to comment on this new change in this new plan?
Well, I mean, you're making a comment right now to us, and I read your perspective in the newspaper. The fire department, I know you've been in contact with them as well, and they're trust me, it's all being taken into consideration, and they are reviewing it right now. And all I can say is that the building inspector is working through the process.
And just one last thing, have you allowed for tours for the members of the fire department to actually see what the new plan has in mind? Because I went up there this weekend, and if you walk it, I mean, you can see that this is going to be very, very difficult for even the most experienced fire truck driver to operate up there. Could you arrange tours for them to actually see it?
I know that the chief's been on site, and yeah, so he's taking all due diligence in his review as well.
With the new plan, not the old plan.
No, they have the building inspector has been in communication with the chief. He has all of the new information, the new plans. I do believe it's being reviewed by their attorney as well. Okay.
And I know you're a member of the fire department, so I'm assuming you're also making sure that everybody kind of knows what they're signing on to if they decide to sign on.
I'm not a very active member anymore. I have many hats I wear, and especially due with COVID, I haven't been to a call since January, I believe. So.
Well, I just urge you to please, out of all kind of different various obligations that one would have in your position of authority, to make sure that every member of that fire department understands what they're signing on to.
I understand, David, but I also have to be impartial and let the process and law kind of work itself. And
no, of course,
especially what's in our rearview mirror in terms of the legal issues that we dealt with. It would actually be inappropriate for me to get involved with fire department business, and I'm just allowing the building inspector and the fire company to work through the law and the way the law is written, and work through the process and see what comes out of it.
Understood.
Any other public comment?
Michael, I have a question, piggybacking what David said. If that was someone building a home, wouldn't a stop order be done on the work?
There's no work undergoing right now. We're still in the application process. So, I mean, we basically, the last time that we really had any communication with Homeland other than the application process was when they were trying to pressure us to let the trees come down. And, we stood up pretty strongly to them then. So right now, I mean, there's no stop work order to be instituted because there's no work begun at the site.
See, I don't understand that. If they're cutting trees down, in my mind,
they haven't cut anything down. They're actually prohibited by DEC moratorium right now. They can't cut anything there till November. So that's out of our control.
So I misunderstood David. David said they cut down so many trees, or they're going to, they're not.
Showing on the new schematic and new plan, they have trees marked out that they want to take down.
Okay, so they haven't cut them, it's what they're planning to do.
Yeah, no, the only trees that have been cut, they cut some saplings down and some fallen trees in order to get a piece of machinery in there to do core drilling. Oh. Is everybody still there? All right. So that was it, and that was back in the end.
I apologize, Mike.
That's okay. Anybody else for public comment? Anything else from the board? No? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Thank you, everybody, for coming, and have a safe evening.
So,
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
aye.
Thank you.